We'll be dead anyway if the aliens get there first. You think Rezer will just wave at us and back off? He'll take whatever's out there and use it to finish this war. Lieutenant Kara Holt's voice was sharp enough to cut through the constant thrum of the Resolute's engines. The bridge was dim, lit mostly by the cold glow of the holoscreen where the coordinates of the black ship pulsed like a heartbeat. Every officer at their station paused just enough to glance between her and the captain's chair. Briggs finally turned his head to look at her, his tone level but unyielding. I understand the risk, Lieutenant. But we're not gambling the crew on a maybe. We stick to the current vector. That maybe is 20 minutes faster, Kara shot back, refusing to lower her voice. Her eyes burned with the same stubborn defiance that had gotten her through battles she had no right to survive. 20 minutes is the difference between securing whatever's on that ship or watching Rezer's fleet take it while we're still crawling through open space. Briggs held her gaze, his expression unreadable. Around them, status readouts flickered with data. Incoming subspace pings from their long-range sensors, energy spikes from the alien fleet closing in from another sector. Every reading confirmed what she was saying. From the engineering pit, Mac Doyle leaned back in his chair and took a bite of a ration bar like this was just another day. Not sure I like either of those options. Tauran Nebula or open space. Both sound like a lovely way to get dead. Kara ignored him. She stepped closer to Briggs's chair, lowering her voice just enough for only him to hear. If Rezer gets that tech, you know what happens next. This war ends, but not for us. For humanity. Briggs's jaw tightened. He looked back to the display, watching the two blinking markers, human and alien, race toward the same destination. The alien marker was gaining. Slowly, steadily, and with the kind of precision only Rezer commanded. The silence stretched, broken only by the low hum of the ship. Kara could feel every second slipping away. Finally, Briggs exhaled through his nose. The Tauran Nebula is a storm field, Lieutenant. Navigation is unreliable, comms will cut out, and if we lose main power inside, we're done. That's not a route. That's a coffin. Her voice didn't waver. It's a coffin only if we slow down. And I don't plan on slowing down. For a moment, neither moved. Then a proximity alert chimed from tactical. Alien fleet's forward scouts just entered our projected path, reported Ensign Kale from the side station. His voice was tense. At current speed, we'll intercept in less than an hour. Kara's eyes flicked to Briggs. The choice was now. Safe route and face an enemy wall, or cut through the most dangerous storm in known space and pray the Resolute could hold together. Briggs didn't answer right away, but Kara could see the weight of the decision settling on him like armor. And for the first time, she thought she saw a flicker of doubt in his steady eyes. The bridge felt smaller now, as if the walls themselves were listening in on the decision. No one said a word while Briggs stared at the tactical display, the shifting vectors painting a race they were already losing. Kara stood by his chair, arms crossed, heart pounding like she was still in the cockpit of a fighter. Every part of her body was screaming that they had no time left. But she also knew Briggs. He didn't take gambles, he took calculated strikes. If she pushed too hard now, he might dig in just to keep command. The proximity alert sounded again, sharper this time, and the holomap flickered with a new cluster of alien signatures. The scouts weren't alone anymore. The main body of the alien vanguard was beginning to bleed into the sector. They're tightening formation, Ensign Kale said quietly, eyes on his instruments. Almost like they know we're coming. Of course they know, Mac Doyle muttered from engineering, swiveling lazily in his chair. Rezer didn't get to be a galactic nightmare by guessing. He crumpled the empty ration wrapper in one hand, tossed it toward the waste chute, and missed. Briggs's gaze stayed locked on the map. Helm, plot alternate routes through the Tauran Nebula, he said finally. Kara felt the tiniest surge of adrenaline like the first taste of victory. But, Briggs added, his voice hard as steel, I want redundancy on every system before we breach that field. Shields, engines, life support. If one of them even hiccups, we're pulling back. Understood, the helm officer replied, already pulling up navigation overlays. Kara didn't smile, but a corner of her mind wanted to. This wasn't a win, not yet, but it was movement. As the helm traced the potential vectors through the swirling storms of the nebula, the holomap's colors shifted, bright yellow lines twisting like lightning bolts, showing paths with danger zones that glowed an ominous red. Even the safest of the plotted routes carried a 52% risk factor. The worst, 94. That's not a route, Max said, leaning in for a better look. That's a death wish. We've flown worse, Kara replied flatly. He gave her a skeptical glance. Name one. She ignored him and focused on Briggs. Captain, if we hug the edge of the maelstrom spiral inside the nebula, we can cut 8 minutes off. The storms there are volatile, but our shields can take short bursts if is a dangerous word on my bridge, Lieutenant, Briggs said without looking at her. Kara opened her mouth to argue, but the ship's AI, Athena, interrupted in its calm, almost too polite tone. Captain, updated enemy trajectories suggest the alien fleet will reach the black ship's coordinates in 38 minutes, 22 seconds. At our current velocity, we will arrive in 47 minutes. The number hit like a physical blow. Kara stepped closer. You see the problem. Briggs exhaled slowly, then looked at the helm. Take us in. Tauran Nebula, Maelstrom spiral route. A ripple of unease moved across the bridge crew. No one liked flying into a storm that had eaten ships whole. But no one dared protest. The Resolute banked hard, engines flaring, and the stars outside the forward viewport shifted as the ship angled toward a swirling wall of violet and green light on the horizon. The Tauran Nebula was beautiful in the way a lightning strike was beautiful. Something you admired from far away, not from the inside. From the captain's chair, Briggs's voice was steady. All stations brace for entry. And somebody tell engineering I want those shield generators singing like a choir. They'll sing, Max said under his breath. Just hope it's not a funeral hymn. Kara didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the nebula ahead, and all she could think about was Rezer's grin when he realized they were coming. The Resolute crossed the threshold of the Tauran Nebula, and the universe outside turned into a living nightmare. Colors swirled in violent, shifting patterns, glowing tendrils of ionized gas curling and snapping like predators scenting prey. Lightning forks arced through the clouds, bright enough to burn ghost images into the crew's eyes even through the viewport's filters. The first impact came within seconds. A deep, resonant boom rattled the hull as charged particles slammed against the shields. The ship shuddered, lights flickering briefly before stabilizing. Shields at 94%, the tactical officer reported, his voice tense but steady. Briggs didn't look away from the main display. Hold course. Keep the spiral in visual range. Kara gripped the edge of the console beside him, her eyes scanning the faint yellow route marker overlaid on the shifting storms. The spiral was their guide, a massive rotating column of gas and debris that created a thin corridor of relative calm, if you could call anything here calm. From engineering, Mac's voice crackled over comms. Captain, the shield generators are drawing power like a dying star. I'm rerouting from secondary weapons to keep them stable. Do it, Briggs said without hesitation. We won't need weapons if we're space dust. The ship lurched again, this time with enough force to throw one of the ensigns against his console. Kara steadied herself and glanced at the proximity sensors. The readings were a chaotic mess, interference from the nebula scrambling most scans, but one blip cut through the noise. She narrowed her eyes. Captain, we're not alone in here. Briggs turned sharply toward her. Say that again. One of the signatures is moving against the storm's current. Too controlled to be debris. Alien? Could be. The interference is masking the exact signature, but... The proximity alarm blared before she could finish. This time the AI's voice held no polite calm. Unknown vessel detected. Vector intercept course, distance closing. The bridge fell silent for a heartbeat. Then Doyle's voice came in, flat and grim. Well, guess Rezer didn't want to wait for dessert. Helm increase speed, Briggs ordered. Stay in the spiral. Tactical, arm forward batteries but keep them cold. If that's a scout, I want to pass unnoticed. The lights flickered again as the ship pushed harder against the storm. Lightning streaked across the viewport in a blinding flash, and for an instant Kara saw it. A sleek, shadow-like shape slipping through the maelstrom behind them, almost invisible against the chaos except for the glint of metal where the lightning kissed its hull. Her stomach tightened. That's not a scout. Briggs looked at her. Then what is it? She didn't answer right away. She was staring at the display, watching the shadow match their every move. It's a hunter. The word seemed to settle into the air like a weight. Even the hum of the ship's systems felt quieter for a moment. Briggs's jaw tightened. Helm, keep us ahead of it. Kara, get me every evasive pattern that storm will let us use. If that thing's here, it's not just looking to follow. Kara nodded, already pulling data from the NAV feeds, her fingers moving fast. She knew the truth, they wouldn't be able to outrun it forever. And the hunter's presence meant only one thing. Rezer already knew where they were going. The Resolute dove deeper into the spiral, engines straining against the resistance of the storm. Ionized clouds churned around the ship, the colors shifting from electric blues to furious reds as the charged particles grew denser. Every few seconds, the hull thrummed under the nebula's pressure, like the deep growl of some colossal beast they could not see. On the main display, the shadow of the hunter vessel never wavered. It trailed them just far enough to keep weapons from locking but close enough to make it clear they were being herded. "Helm, cut 30 degrees starboard on my mark," Kara said quickly, scanning a burst of telemetry from the spiral's inner currents. "There's a cross-draft we can use to sling us forward." Briggs didn't take his eyes off the screen. "Mark." The ship banked sharply. Gravity shifted just enough to make everyone feel a pull toward the port side. A few unsecured tools clattered in the background as Max swore over the comms. The maneuver worked briefly. The hunter's image on the display drifted back, forced to adjust to the sudden vector change. But then, impossibly, it surged forward again, cutting across the current as if the nebula's resistance didn't touch it. "How the hell is it moving like that?" Doyle muttered. Kara's voice was low, almost to herself. "Adaptive thrusters. They're mapping the currents in real time and using them." Briggs turned his head just enough to look at her. "And you're telling me they can do that faster than you can?" Kara's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch at the challenge. "If I had their tech, I'd be ahead of us already." Before Briggs could respond, the nebula itself joined the hunt. A sudden flare erupted to port, a ribbon of plasma arcing toward them from deep within the storm. The shields flared white under the impact, the ship rocking hard enough that one of the bridge crew caught himself on the floor before sliding back into his chair. "Shields down to 78%, Tactical called out. "And holding, barely." Mac's voice came over the comms, breathless and urgent. "Captain, the shield relays in sections 3 through 5 are running hot. We can ride this pace for maybe 5 more minutes before they burn out." Briggs looked at the display again. The hunter ship was closing the gap, its hull glinting in the flashes of nebula lightning. It wasn't firing, not yet, but that made it worse. Hunters didn't waste ammunition until they were certain of the kill. "Options," Briggs said curtly. Kara hesitated, scanning her readings. "There's a deeper loop in the spiral ahead. If we take it, we might shake them. But the currents there are unstable. If I'm wrong about the timing, we'll be crushed into scrap." Doyle spoke up from the weapons console. "Or we could turn and hit them before they hit us." Briggs didn't answer right away. His eyes flicked between the two officers. On one hand, Kara's plan carried a massive risk. On the other, Doyle's suggestion meant a direct engagement inside a storm that scrambled targeting systems. Both choices were bad. The proximity alarm blared again, louder this time. The hunter was within optimal firing range. The decision was made for them. "Helm, take Kara's loop," Briggs ordered. "All power to forward shields. Kara, you ride the currents like your life depends on it, because it does." The Resolute banked again, cutting into a swirling wall of crimson mist. The pressure increased instantly, alarms chirping from multiple stations as the ship fought against the storm. The hunter followed, but Kara's hands moved like lightning over her console, nudging their trajectory to ride just ahead of the pull. For a moment it worked. The distance widened. The hunter fell back, its outline flickering in and out of visibility. But then, as if reading their play, the alien ship released something into the storm, a cluster of small, dark shapes that scattered ahead of them. The AI's voice came cold and precise. "Multiple contacts detected. Origin unknown. Course intercept." The objects vanished into the nebula haze, but Kara knew better than to hope they were harmless. "Hunters deploying storm mines," she said sharply. "They'll trigger off our shield's energy signature." Briggs's voice was calm, but his eyes stayed locked forward. "Then you'd better make us very hard to find, Lieutenant." The mines were invisible to the naked eye, but Kara could feel them closing in through the sensors. Each one was tuned to detect the electromagnetic ripple of their shields. Even a whisper of energy output would light them up like a beacon. Her hands moved fast over her console. "Dropping shield output to minimum. Brace for turbulence." "Minimum?" Doyle's voice carried disbelief. "We're in the middle of a plasma storm, Lieutenant." "Better fried by the nebula than blown to atoms," she shot back. The Resolute's shields dimmed, their protective glow fading until only a thin haze remained. Without the buffer, the ship shuddered as raw streams of charged particles scraped the hull. The lights flickered overhead and a faint acrid scent of overheated wiring drifted through the bridge. Kara leaned forward, scanning the shifting currents ahead. The mines were moving with them now, drifting on the same invisible waves of the spiral, adjusting position each time the Resolute altered course. They were patient hunters. "Those things are steering," Mac reported over comms. "They're not just dumb drift charges. They're tracking us." "Then we make them lose the scent," Kara said, her voice tight. She tapped a sequence into her console, sending a pulse through the ventral thrusters. The Resolute lurched downward into a denser pocket of the storm. Visibility dropped to almost nothing, the nebula swirling like thick smoke against the viewports. The ship creaked under the pressure, hull plating groaning as if warning them to turn back. Doyle's hands hovered over the weapon's controls. If they get too close, I can try detonating one and hope it sets off a chain reaction. Briggs shook his head. We fire and we light ourselves up. They'll have a lock inside 2 seconds. Kara's eyes narrowed at her readings. A faint corridor was opening ahead, a natural current sweeping through the storm. If they could ride it just right, the mines might be swept away in the opposite direction. Helm, align us with that current, bearing 318. The ship rolled to match the vector. The pressure shifted instantly, slamming them sideways as the current caught hold. The mines responded, drifting closer, their silent chase accelerating. Too close, Mac called from engineering. If they get inside 10 meters, I can't guarantee. The proximity alarm screamed. They're inside 10, Doyle finished grimly. Kara took a breath, her fingers tightening on the controls. Hold. The corridor ahead narrowed like a funnel. The current accelerated, dragging the Resolute forward at dangerous speed. Then the funnel split into 2 paths, each bending in opposite directions. Kara shoved them hard into the left branch without warning. The mines surged forward, straight into the right branch. The sudden divergence tore them from the ship's path, scattering them into the storm's deeper turbulence. One by one, their energy signatures vanished from the scanners. The bridge let out a collective breath. Briggs's voice cut through the relief. Don't celebrate yet. Look behind us. On the display, the Hunter vessel emerged from the haze. It had ignored the mines entirely. Worse, it was closer than before, its sleek alien frame illuminated by the flicker of lightning in the storm. Kara's stomach dropped. They knew we'd dodged them. The Hunter's forward arrays began to glow. And that was when the Resolute sensors picked up something else. A massive, moving object deeper in the spiral, heading straight toward both ships. The contact was huge. Too large for any known vessel, human or alien. It moved with deliberate slowness, as if the crushing plasma currents of the spiral were nothing more than a lazy tide. Mac's voice came through the comms, quieter than usual. That thing is generating its own gravitational field. It's bending the currents around itself. Kara's eyes stayed locked on the scanner. Is it a ship? Not like any ship I've ever seen, Mac replied. The alien Hunter was still closing on them, its arrays glowing brighter with each second. But for the first time, Kara noticed something odd. The Hunter was adjusting its own course, subtly drifting away from the massive contact's path. Almost as if it was afraid. Briggs caught it too. They're giving it space. Which means we should be worried. The spiral lit up ahead, a faint silhouette beginning to emerge from the storm. Its shape was impossible to take in all at once. The front looked like the jagged prow of a colossal battleship, but it rippled with movement as if its armor was alive. Along its sides, bioluminescent patterns pulsed in slow rhythm, like the heartbeat of something ancient. Doyle stared at the viewport, his voice a whisper. That's not a ship. That's alive. The Hunter didn't fire. It drifted, shadowing the Resolute now rather than chasing outright, both vessels seemingly caught in the wake of the Leviathan's slow passage. A deep vibration rolled through the hull, so low it was almost below hearing. Kara felt it in her bones more than in her ears. The creature was speaking, or warning. The lights on the bridge dimmed, sensors spiking with interference. Power drain, Mac reported. It's pulling energy from us. The bioluminescent patterns on the creature's side shifted, forming a spiral symbol almost identical to the ancient markings found on the derelict satellite they had studied weeks before. Only this time, the pattern pulsed with intensity as if aimed at them directly. Kara swallowed hard. It's signaling us. Briggs's jaw tightened. Or marking us. The alien Hunter suddenly fired, not at them but into the storm ahead of the Leviathan. A cascade of bright energy bursts tore through the plasma currents, but the Leviathan didn't even react. The Hunter then banked sharply, retreating into the storm's darkness, vanishing in seconds. That's not right, Doyle muttered. They never run. The vibrations from the creature deepened, and suddenly the current that had carried the Resolute shifted violently. The ship spun off course, alarms blaring, dragged toward the Leviathan's massive flank. Engines full reverse. Briggs barked. They're already at maximum. Kara yelled back. We're still being pulled in. The storm outside blazed white for an instant, and for a fraction of a second, Kara thought she saw an opening along the creature's side, an entrance vast enough to swallow their ship whole. Before anyone could speak, the Resolute's nose began to turn toward it, as if something far stronger than their engines had taken control. And then the comms crackled with a voice none of them recognized. "Come inside or be erased." The signal cut. The Leviathan loomed closer. No one moved. No one even dared to breathe. The words still echoed inside their skulls, heavy and cold. They had not come through the comms. No static, no signal feed. It was as if something vast and alien had bypassed every known channel and spoken directly to the deepest corners of their minds. Kara's hands were locked on the controls, her fingers stiff and pale. The ship trembled as if caught in the grip of a tidal current. Every thruster gauge screamed red, temperature warnings blared across her console, but nothing mattered. The pull toward the Leviathan's flank was relentless. Mac's voice cracked, and for once there was no humor in it. "Main power's bleeding out. Shields won't hold. Life support will follow in less than a minute. Cut all non-essential systems," Briggs ordered sharply. "Everything to propulsion. If we're going in, we fight the whole way." The Resolute's engines roared, but the stars outside weren't shifting. The great mass of the Leviathan filled the entire forward view, its skin a tapestry of impossible bioluminescent patterns, the spirals rippling in slow, deliberate rhythm. Doyle leaned closer to the viewport, his face pale in the glow. "That's not a hangar," he said softly, his voice shaking. "That's a mouth." The word landed like a lead weight. Kara's breath caught in her throat. She could feel it now, something alive behind those spirals. Watching. Waiting. Deciding. The ship jolted hard, the metal groaning as if something had seized the hull. Mac's console erupted in alarms. "We've got contact. Multiple points along the outer plating. They're latching on." Briggs' jaw tightened. "Borders? Not human. Not alien." Mac stopped, eyes fixed on the sensor feed. "I don't even know what I'm looking at." The voice returned, deeper this time, vibrating through every bone in their bodies. "Choose quickly. Enter willingly, or be taken." Outside, the spiral patterns quickened, each pulse matching the rapid, hammering beat in Kara's chest. The aperture, if it could even be called that, was now so close it drowned out the stars. It was a swirling, shifting vortex of light and shadow, a portal that felt less like a passage and more like an open, hungry eye. Kara swallowed hard. "Captain." Briggs didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the opening, his thoughts unreadable. He had made countless battlefield calls, but this one felt different. It wasn't just about survival. It was about who, or what, would control the black ship first. Suddenly, every light in the bridge went dead. The ship plunged into blackness. The only illumination was the unearthly glow outside, painting the crew in ghostly shades of blue and silver. The only illumination was the unearthly glow outside, painting the crew in ghostly shades of blue and silver. Then something even stranger happened. A faint shape appeared inside the vortex. Not the hulking silhouette of a predator, but the outline of a figure. Humanoid. Perfectly still. It was standing as if waiting for them. And then, in that same bone-deep voice, it spoke again, slow, deliberate, and impossible to misunderstand. "Welcome, children of the dying star. We have been expecting you."